Says the Gemara, Tanya, we learned in a Braita, how could you come now and tell me that this is going in Shitat Rabbi Yosef? That Rabbi Yosef says that when this woman, that she was Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom, what happened was is that, again, remember, this woman, she saw blood outside of her normal period. So therefore, she becomes Zavak Tana. Zavak Tana, since it's a sickness, so therefore she has to be Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom. She brought the Korban Pesach after she went to the mikveh in the morning. And then what happened was, is later on, again, she sees blood. So says the Gemara, even though she cannot eat from this Korban Pesach, so we thought that she cannot eat from the Korban Pesach, but she doesn't have to bring Pesach Sheni because the tzitz was minatzeh, which means the Kohen Gadol's frontal, this head plate, which says Kodesh Lashem, it's going to atone, and therefore, even though she cannot eat from the Korban Pesach, it's still going to be okay. And so the Gemara, we hold like Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef, he holds that when she becomes Tameah the second time around, after on the second day, when again she sees blood, she doesn't go back retroactively. She only goes back. She only goes forward. Therefore, since she only goes to Mikan Rabba, therefore, and not retroactively. So then, what happens is that when she brought the Korban Pesach, she was 100% pure. Now she can't eat it. Fine, she's anusa, she's force majeure. Now she can't eat it, but she saw blood again. But it's only from now onwards. It's not retroactively. So says the Gemara, Tanya Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yosef taught another Braita, Zav. Now remember, the Zav is the equivalent of a Zavah. The Zavah by women, right? It's blood because she always sees a flow. So the sickness is also blood, not in the normal time. By a man, right? The Zav, the sickness is a seminal discharge, but it's not really 100% semen. It's a little bit of a different liquid than semen. We already said it's when the male organ is dead, and that's when this type of a semen is coming out, and it's a sickness. It's called a Zav. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef Omer, Zav Baal Shte Re'iyot Sheshachatu V'Zarku Alav B'Shvi'i Shelo. Imagine you have a Zav that he saw twice. They did the Shechita of the Korban Pesach, and they threw the blood of the Korban Pesach for him on his 7th day of the Shivat Nekiim, right? Because remember, he also needs Shivat Nekiim, and he would need a Korban as well, just like a woman, right? And he already did Tevilah on the 7th day. Ve'achar kach, then, throughout the day, after bringing the Korban Pesach, Ra'ah, again, he saw blood. So now what happens is that obviously we thought that night he was going to become pure. Okay, but he didn't become pure. At the end of the day, he saw again. So what happens? Same halacha will apply to Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom, that they did the Korban Pesach for her, and then it was on the second day. Okay, and afterwards, Ra'ata, she saw. So says the Gemara, Hare'elu metamein mishkav umoshav lemafreah. It's going to be metameh. Mishkav umoshav retroactively. Upturim mila'asot Pesach Sheni. So says the Gemara, she's going to be exempt, or they are going to be exempt, because we're talking about both the Zav and the Zavah, from the Pesach Sheni. So you see from here, right, that according to Rabbi Yosef, the Zav and the Zavah, when they are soter, right, the Tevilah did not help them at all, because it goes back retroactively. So what are you trying to answer me? That we are only going mikanu laba, which means from now onwards. Here it's a Braita mefureshet. And again, we're talking about Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom. So even erase the Zav part, right? Forget about the Zav. Just even if you just had it was just part of the Braita, so we brought it in. But Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom, and what happens? It says mefurash that it goes lemafreah, goes retroactively. Yeah. So answers the Gemara, Amre, my lemafreah. What does it mean lemafreah? Midrabanan, it goes lemafreah. Meaning, according to Shitat Rabbi Yosef, Mina Torah, it's only Mikanu Leba from now onwards. But Lemafreya, right, it's only Midrabanan, which means like this, right? We know that there's a concept called Miktzat Hayom Kekulo. Miktzat Hayom Kekulo means a little bit of the day is considered the entire day. For example, where do we see this concept? Avelut. A person does Avelut. Yeah? So let's say a person just went into Avel, let's say on Monday. Yeah? Monday. So what happens is you count Monday, right? Even if they didn't do the entire day of Monday, Miktzat Hayom Kekulo. Since it's a Miktzat Hayom, well, okay, right? Since it's Miktzat Hayom Kekulo, right? What happens is that you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbat, and then Sunday. Sunday is the 7th day. Sunday in the morning, he's already able to go out. Plus Monday, even though he didn't do the entire Monday, as long as he sat for 1 hour during the day, miktzat hayom kekulo, and therefore Monday also counts. So it's actually on both ends. So that means on the first day of Avelut, we say miktzat hayom kekulo, and on the last day of Avelut, we say miktzat hayom kekulo. What we don't do is we don't say both together, meaning that I cannot say miktzat hayom kekulo to count for both, for let's say the Shiva and the Shloshim. So that means on that 7th day, I cannot say that, that's also like the 8th day for the Shloshim. It's only the 7th day. You understand? But meaning I can't use it for both, meaning that the same day, I cannot use part of it from before and part of it afterwards. But if they're 2 different days, I could say miktzat hayom kekulo. So the first day was Monday, even though he didn't do the entire Monday. And the last day is Sunday, even though he didn't do the entire Sunday. A little bit here and a little bit there. Exactly. But on the same day, I cannot use for both. Meaning I cannot go backwards and forwards on the same day. Okay? Fine. Okay? In many things.
No,
what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean by Chag? I didn't understand by Chag. What does that mean? What's the connection? Ve'af Rabbi Yoshia savar, and also Rabbi Yoshia holds metameh lemafreya midrabanan, which means that also you go back retroactively midrabanan. Remember, here we're talking about metameh mishkav moshav. The zava is going to be metameh mishkav moshav. Mishkav moshav is basically that when you're going to sit down on something, so then that's going to impurify. So that is called, right, metameh mishkav moshav, retroactively midrabanan. Tanya, as we learned in a Braita, Rabbi Oshaya says, Aval zav shera b'shvi shelo, when you have a zav that he sees on the 7th day, soter et shelefanav, he's going to be soter that which he saw beforehand. V'amar le Rabbi Yochanan, it says Rabbi Yochanan, lo yistor el yomo, he's only going to be soter the same day. He's not going to be soter anything else. Okay, so therefore he only has to do 1 more day to finish off the Shivat Nikim. Okay, so says the Gemara, Mima nafshach. Why? If you're going to tell me that he goes back retroactively, afilu kulho nistor, so then it should be soter the entire thing. If it's going to be from now onwards, so shouldn't even do his day as well. So and the answer is the Gemara, lo yistor velo lo yomo. It's not going to be soter even his own day. So let's just get this very, very clear. What's going on? A man came and he saw Zav. He's now obligated Shivat Nikim. On the 7th day, he goes to the mikveh in the morning, right? To pretend, just like a woman, right? He goes to the mikveh in the morning, and then he's waiting to be clean for the rest of the 7th day. He saw again the same day. So says the Gemara, what's happening? So says the Gemara, what happens is that it's not going to be soter the 7 days, but he is soter that day. So therefore, he just needs 1 more clean day, and then he's 100% pure. But it does not soter, it does not destroy everything that he saw beforehand, but it does destroy that same day. So ask the Gemara, I don't understand. If it's going to destroy, it should destroy everything that he saw beforehand. And if it's not going to destroy everything that he saw beforehand, so then it shouldn't even destroy the same day as well. Because since we say miktzat hayom kekulo, so that 7th day did count for him. You're right, now again he becomes tameh for a day, that's fine. But at the end of the day, his 7 days were completed. He finished it. So says the Gemara, you're right. When it says lo yistor, it means lo yistor velo yoma, not lo yistor, which means that even that day, it's not going to be soter, and therefore he's only going to need just like another day, but he already finished the Shiva Nikim. He already finished it. Okay? Ve'amale Rabbi Yosef kakal kaika v'techa. So says Rabbi Yoshia to Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yosef holds like you. Right? Why? Because Rabbi Yosef says that a zav that sees on the 7th day, he's going to be a Chovah, and he's patur from doing Pesach Sheni. And the reason why is because that is only Mikan Rabbah. It only goes from now onwards. It doesn't go retroactively. So says the Gemara, right? I thought we said that it is mitameh mushkav moshav retroactively mafreya. But rather we learn from here mitameh mafreya midrabanan. But rather it's only midrabanan. Shema mina. So you're right. It's only midrabanan, which means that according to Shtat Rabbi Yosef, it's only mikan ulabah. We do go back retroactively, but that's only midrabanan. It's only midrabanan that we go back retroactively. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef, and according to Rabbi Yosef, now that we say that it's going to be from now onwards, it's going to be metameh, lemet bilvad, only for a met. So lemutemai. What does it mean? Because there we said, Lo amru tumat teom el lemed bilvad. We only said this concept of tumat teom by a met, not by anything else. What does that come to exclude? The miutemai. So says the Gemara, nifshot mina de vekohen hutra lo tumat teom. So why don't we bring a proof from here, from this braita, that any kohen that is doing the avodah, that he became tameh with tumat tehom. So therefore, we want to say hutra lo tumat tehom, right? It should become pure, right? That's what we want to bring. Why? Because since we're going to say now that this we are being mimayet tumat tehom of ziva, so obviously, and we're talking about it's mitameh tumat tehom of sheretz, but above we already said that it's not going to tumat tehom of sheretz either. So therefore, why don't we just say it's talking about the kohen? So says the Gemara, Amri, we're going to say no. It's not talking about the kohen. Le'olam ve'ba'alim. Really, we are talking about the owners and not the kohen. Remember, we had two choices. Are we trying to say, what about the kohen that is doing the service? And then he became tameh, tumat teom. Tumat teom is a tumat safek. What does it mean in tumat safek? He for sure became tameh. But the reason why it was a safek is because you didn't know about it. It was underneath rubble. It was underneath something that you didn't know about. It's tumat teom. It's what? It's not that it's voided. It is for sure tumah that you didn't know about.
But it doesn't cancel it,
right?
It doesn't cancel the person to do what needs to be done.
No, so then that's what we're saying now. That's what we're saying. It's because it's halakha Moshe Sinai that we're more lenient. That's what it is. So now, but the question was, does it also apply to the kohen doing the service or not? So it says Gemara, Amri leolam be'alim. Really, we're talking about the owners. Upesach, and we're talking about the korban pesach. The kasavar, and he holds a bioseh en shochtim v'zorkin atmeh sheretz ve'itzikra lemiute. Which means that according to him, we do not slaughter and throw the blood on somebody which is tameh tumat sheretz, and that's why we needed to exclude it from the din of tumat tehom. Okay, so that's what we're trying to say. Which means that since you could bring the korban, even for sure if the person is tameh tumat sheretz, right? Nevertheless, we are going to bring it with tumat tehom of sheretz. But according to Shitat Rabbi Yosef, we are going to say that we don't bring the korban pesach with it, and that's why we needed it. Okay, which means that basically like this. The question is, a person became tumat sheretz of a tehom, right? Which means he didn't know there was a creepy crawler there. He put his hand inside of like a pit or whatever it is, and all of a sudden his hand did touch a bug, but who's going to think that there was something there?
Actually,
right?
Actually, that's in a way a bad example.
That was an example of the Gemara.
No, but it's a very bad example because throughout the all Gemaras, we're always learning, do not do that because you might come across something like that.
You might, but not that you were expecting it.
And exactly, and then only this example you're giving, it's
yeah,
kind of really,
that's what the Gemara brings up.
I'm just saying that's
100%. So here the Gemara says, according to Shitat Rabbi Yosef, Zavag Gemura Echi Mishkachala. So how could you find a Zavag Gdola then? Right? Why? Because basically like this, one more time. According to Shitat Rabbi Yosef, what's he saying? That you never go retroactively. Correct? You only go Mikanu Laba. So how are you going to find a Zavag Gdola? Why? Any woman that sees dam, blood on the first day, she's going to be Tme'ah that day. She has to be Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom. So it's the next day. Right? After the second day already started without her seeing, so then it's only Mikanu Laba. It's not Mafreya. It's not retroactively. It's only from now onwards. So then it never connects. So therefore, there's never going to be 3 days in a row to obligate 7, right? How do you find a Zavag Gdola, right? The second, so answers the Gemara b'shofat. No, she never had a clean moment in the morning. Meaning, even when she started the second day, she was still flowing. So since she was already flowing, there was never a stop. So since there was never a stop, we don't say that's mitzat yom kekulo, and therefore it's all a continuation. So since it's all a continuation, she could do that. So that's one answer, which she could do that.
Then why should she
right?
go to the mikveh?
Which one?
Why didn't she go to the mikveh?
No, because even without going to the mikveh.
So there's no question.
No, because the question was that if she was going to be pure even for a few moments in the morning, the next day never connects.
Correct, but if
forget about mikveh. There's no mikveh.
No, forget about it. But if it's shofat, there's no question.
No, but we don't care about the mikveh now. What we care is I have to find 3 days consecutively.
Understand,
okay.
Forget about mikveh.
Okay.
Physically, it's shofat.
Okay.
There's no one moment it's purification. So what is the question beginning?
No, the question was, well, one more time. We didn't know this, that she was shofat. We thought that it was like a woman that she's spotting, right? Women don't always flow the entire time. Remember, this is not talking about anida. Anida is a cycle, and the cycle does flow, right? And it can, and even with that, it's not like a woman is like a, you open up the faucet and it's just going and going. It could continue and this and that, and sometimes it'll come big and sometimes small and sometimes this and that, right? It all depends how it is. So here we're talking about she was the entire 3 days shofat. Okay, so ibai tema, or if you want, you could answer another answer. כגון שראתה כל שני מן השמשות. Even if you're going to tell me that there was no shofat, which means that it wasn't that she was flowing the full 3 days, so therefore you have 3 consecutive days, but at least during the ben hashmashot, she was saying, which means that the connection between the days is always a ben hashmashot, the twilight, whether it is in the nighttime in the morning, right? There are always the connections. Whether it is right, that is the concept of ben hashmashot, whether it is in the morning or in the nighttime. They always connect the day to the night and the night to the day. That's connections. So what's happening here? Even if she didn't see the entire day, but the fact that during that connecting time she was seeing, so then that's why it's going to be okay. Why? Because then you could still find a case that there's going to be 3 days in a row because you had that connecting time. Okay. So now let's go back because that was just some like a derech agav, a question. According to Rabbi Yosef, how do you find a zavah gdola? Now we're going back to what the Gemara said. Rabbi Yosef comes and he asks, Kohen amratzeh betamid. Imagine a Kohen that he's doing the Korban Tamid, right? Or any other Korban Tzibur. Hutra lo tumat teom or lo? Does it become permitted to him the tumat teom or not? So we were asking before to do the Korban Pesach. Now we're asking about whether it's Korban Tamid, which is brought every single day, or any other communal sacrifice. If you're going to tell me Kohen amratzeh bekomonoten shel nazivus Pesach, hutra lo tumat teom, Kohen amratzeh tamid mai. So if you're going to tell me that it is good by the Nazir and the Pesach, and what's going to be by the Korban Tamid? Mi amninan do we say ki gemire tumat tehom bePesach betamid lo gemire? Do we say that it's only going to be by the Korban Pesach but not by the Korban Tamid? Or dilmar maybe, right? Or dilmar maybe yalif tamid mi Pesach. You're going to learn the Korban Tamid from the Korban Pesach, right? Do we learn the Korban Tamid from Korban Pesach, or do we say no? Yeah, that's the Gemara is asking. So basically, again, one more time, the question is Kohen, he's bringing it. Do we compare it? Do we learn it from the Korban Pesach and the Tamid, the Korban Pesach and the Nazir, that a Korban Tamid also is the same halacha, or don't we learn it from there? So Amar Rabba says it's kavachomer. Uma b'makom shelo hutra lo tuma yedua, hutra lo tumat tehom, makom shehutra lo tuma yedua, right? Eno din shehutra lo tumat tehom, which means like this. Dead body, the current has to touch it to be tamid, or just to be on top? Again, one more time. Right. No, he had to also touch it or be within the same vicinity. I know, but if he doesn't touch, so then no, it would also apply to him. But how? Again, it's talking about a case where tumat means that you're not expecting it. How's it going to be on top of it without him expecting it? It's much easier to say that he's touching it, because it was in a rubble or it was in a, like something like that. After somebody touch it and say, by the way, just underneath you have a dead body. In this case, it's when he's gonna. When he realized on the top of stones, the dead body is on the. So we learned that tumat tehom was going to be more lenient. It's halacha Moshe Sinai. I know. But even if he doesn't touch it, is it like zero or it's like? No. He's still tumat oel. Tumat met is always tumat oel. Tumat oil means the same tent.
But Rabbi, isn't it true to say that it depends?
Yeah, that's a regular coin.
Rabbi, isn't it true? It's a question. Isn't it true to say, like the Gemara says, if it's a how you say the galavanim, rubble of stones, then it's not.
What do you mean it's not?
Because it's the tomb.
That's why I told him. It's not the tomb, but still it's going to be there. If
it's one stone, then it's yes, like a kever. Because the kever is.
No, it says again. The concept is that you're not expecting it. It doesn't matter how many stones there are. It's just that you're not expecting.
In the second page, it says if it's a kever, like more like a kever, then the kever is actually putting it together. And because putting it together.
Okay, I have no idea. I didn't see that page. Okay, fine. So says the Gemara one more time. So Rabba comes and he says, "Kal v'chomer." What's the kal v'chomer? Uma b'makom shelo utra lo tuma yedua, which means by korbanot nazir and the Pesach, right? What's happening? They're korbanot yachid. Now, if the Kohen becomes tameh, tumad yudua, he's not allowed to do the service, right? The service of the Bet HaMikdash. And still, hutra lo tumat teom. So in a place where there is a heter, which means a korban tamid, that there is a permission of doing tumah yudua, for example, like korban tzibur, right? When there's no other Kohen tahor that is able to do it. Pe'alef emubet, 81b. Eno din shehutra lo tumat teom. Shouldn't it be the din that it's going to permit him the tumat teom, which means that it should. So again, one more time, what are we talking about? We're talking about that korbanot tzibur you're permitted to do when you're tmeim. Remember, that's what we spoke about, right? A person, if the community, not only Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach, you need the majority of the tzibur, right? But by the korbanot tzibur, remember the Korban Pesach is not Korban tzibur. Korban Pesach is a yachid. It's an individual, right? But all the individuals are obligated in it. The Korban tzibur is, for example, Korban Tamid. So the Korban Tamid, what happens is that there shouldn't it be that you should also have the heter, right, of the Tumat HaTehom? Meaning, if the Korban Pesach, you have this concept. So, right, so obviously, Kal V'chomer, you should say the same concept by the Korbanot HaTzibur, where you do have the heter much more. So, says the Gemara, okay, so says the Gemara, Amre umida ninan Kal V'chomer mehalacha? Can you make a Kal V'chomer from halacha Moshe Sinai? Remember, what are we trying to do? The concept of this Tumat HaTehom is halacha Moshe Sinai. Halacha Moshe Sinai means it's not refurash in the Torah. I learned it as a tradition from one person to another person to another person to another person until Moshe Rabbeinu. And where did he learn it from? Halacha Moshe Sinai, from Har Sinai. So anything which comes as halacha Moshe Sinai, you can't start doing Kal V'chomers from that because it's an exception to the rule. It's a special case. Halacha Moshe Sinai is a special case. So you can't start doing Kal V'chomer. So why did you do a Kal V'chomer from halacha Moshe Sinai? You can't do that. Tanya, we learned in the Braita, Amarlo Rabbi Eliezer says Rabbi Eliezer, Akiva, etzem keseora, that a bone, like a seora, like a barley bean, like a barley grain, halacha, it's going to be halacha Moshe Sinai. That's going to be make it tameh. Revit dam, one revit of blood, also bekal v'chomer, ve'en damin kal v'chomer halacha. But he says, 1 second, you wanted to learn it from a Kal V'chomer, you can't learn a Kal V'chomer from halacha Moshe Sinai. So the same thing. What are you trying to learn by a Kohen? That a Kohen by the Pesach and by the Nazir, that it's a halacha Moshe Sinai legabe, the concept of Tumat HaTehom, and you wanted to learn the Kohen by the Korban Tamid from there because of a Kal V'chomer. We don't do Kal V'chomer from halacha Moshe Sinai. So answers the Gemara, you're right. But rather Rava says, Yalif Moado Moado mi Pesach. We do a Gzera Shava, Moado Moado for Pesach, which means it's written by the Korban Tamid b'Moado, and it's written in Korban Pesach b'Moado, which means just like Tumat HaTehom was permitted by Pesach, so too Tumat HaTehom was going to be permitted by the Korban Tamid. Remember that we learned from this b'Moado that it pushes off Shabbat. Right? That's what we learned last time, that it pushes off Shabbat. Okay? Now it says the Gemara, the Tumat HaTehom gufa hechaktiva. Where is the concept written of Tumat HaTehom? So Rabbi Lazar says, Amarka says in Pasuk, V'chiyamut metalav b'muchveret alav. When it says when a person is going to die, alav, on him. What does it mean on him? It means that the tumah, which is mechuveret alav, which is clear to him, which is in front of him, which a person could see it, which means that it's something that's clear. You know that there's tumah here. So ashkechan nazir ose pesach minalan. So now 1 second. Here we're talking about a korban, a nazir, which Tumat HaTehom is not going to be ma'akev, because this is talking about this pasuk v'chiyamut metalav is talking about a nazir. But what about a korban pesach? Because we put both cases together, the korban nazir and korban pesach together. How do you know the korban pesach? So Rabbi Yochanan says, it says in the pasuk, bederech rechoka lachem b'mechuveret lachem. What does it mean bederech rechoka lachem? It means when it's going to be tum'ah, which is brura and which is known to you. What does that mean? Right, but derech lechoka lachem. That means that somebody's going to be very, very far off place. He does Pesach Sheni, he doesn't do Pesach Rishon. So says the Gemara, b'mechuveret lachem. It has to be also tumah which is known to you. If Shimon Lakish wants to bring another proof, he wants to say no. Kederech. It's like the derech. What does that mean? It says when a person's tameh nefesh, which means he's tameh, or derech rechoka. Yeah. So what happens if a person's tameh nefesh or derech rechoka? He's going to have to bring Pesach Sheni. Derech Rechuka means he's far away, he's not around. And Tameh Nefesh, he's Tameh. Says the Gemara, Kederech, it's like the Derech. Just like Derech is Bagalui, when you go on the path is revealed. So to the Tumah is also Bagalui. Tumah also has to be when it's going to be revealed. So Meitvei, so we're going to ask the following question. Ezeu Tumat HaTehom. What is the Tumat HaTehom? Kol shelo ikir ba'echad besof ha'olam. Right? If you do not know it once, right, from one part to the end of the world, which means any met, any deceased, which is going to be in a place which is hidden, right, which means that nobody knows where it is. Even if one person knows about it, it's not considered Tumat HaTehom anymore. Meaning Tumat HaTehom, remember, the Tehom is like the abyss. It's like in the depths. You understand? Right? So therefore, since it's from there, nobody knows about it. The second that one person knows about this Tumah, it's not considered Tumat HaTehom. Okay, so it says Rabbi Elazar damar b'mechuveret alav ad yadahu. Says no. According to Shitat Rabbi Elazar, that means basically what was the difference between the two? If you're going to tell me that it's going to be, according to the first Shita, this entire concept is that as long as one person knows, it's not a tehom. According to Rabbi Elazar, no. Mechuveret alav, he has to know about it. Which means even if a lot of people know. Imagine right now you go to a city. Everyone knows that underneath this rubble, there was an earthquake, Bar Minan, and people were buried alive. So they know that there are going to be people there buried alive. Right? Probably. You understand? They know. But what? But this person doesn't know. It doesn't know. Why? It's not mechuveret alav. So therefore, it's going to be okay according to him. According to Rabbi Yochanan, that he says that he learned it from lachem. But remember, each one was learning it from three different things. Rabbi Elazar learned it from the pasuk v'chiyamuta metalav b'mechuveret alav. That has to be on him, that he has to know about it. Okay. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says the derech. So therefore, as long as the derech, which means the majority of people know about it, so then that's already going to make it. It's not going to make it to Tilm anymore. According to Rabbi Yochanan, damar lachem. Right? It has to be two people know about it. Okay, that's Shitat Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, why? Because two people is already lachem. Lachem is in plural, so plural is two people. Once two people know about the Tumat HaTehom, so it's not considered Tumat HaTehom anymore because it's already known to everybody. Not Chavruta. Rabbi Yochanan they were brother-in-laws. Rabbi Yochanan was a teacher. Afterwards, it was like Tamil Chaver, which means that they were like Chavrutas. Right? Yeah. According to Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Tamar kederech, just like the derech, ad de kule alma. So according to the Shakish, that it says kederech, it has to be everybody knows about it. So look at all the different shitot, which means that according to each one, how they learned it, the concept of Tumat HaTehom, that's how they learn how many people have to know about it in order to make it an exception to the rule, Tumat HaTehom or not. Rabbi Elazar that said, right, v'tumah alav, v'chiyamutu met alav, so it has to be mechuveret alav, meaning he has to know. I don't care about everybody else in the world. Everybody else in the world can know, but he doesn't know, it's considered Tumat HaTehom. According to, we never go like that. I don't know. This is a timat.
He never, it's a question, but it's also a statement at the same time.
I don't know. I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to answer because at the end of the day, this is Tumah V'Tahara, and we don't have a Shulchan Aruch on this. There is a Rambam here that it says it that that even if one person already knows, right? But that's already enough. But we're not. I'm not going to go what's halacha or not halacha. Anyway, it's not Nogiana. So it says the Gemara. According to Shitat Rabbi Elazar, even if one person already knew about it, even if the entire world except for him know about it, it's still considered Tumat HaTehom. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it has to be two people. According to the Shakish, right, it has to be the majority of people. Right? Why does it have to be the majority of the people? Because he says, Kule Alma, it has to be everybody. Because it has to be like a derech that everyone knows about the path. Fine. So says the Gemara, Ela Tumat HaTehom ilchat ha'gemirele, ukra asmachta b'alma. So says the Gemara, you're right. But even though we just now brought a pasuk, because each one was bringing a pasuk. One of them was bringing from Vechiyamu Metalav. Right, everyone has, it's a pasuk. No, it's really Halacha Moshe Sinai, but they did an asmachta. An asmachta means that we have halacha. But then afterwards, we want to try to find like a type of a hint. You understand? We want to try to find a hint. How do we find a hint? I come and I take up a pasuk. I say, you know what? This is probably hinting to this. So it's not written in Furash, but I'm just saying that the Halacha Moshe Sinai that I already have, I'm going to attach it to a certain pasuk. Okay, that's called an asmachta. So it's an asmachta. Amar Mor Baravashi says Mor Baravashi. Lo shanu ela shenoda lo lachar zrika. What do we say? We say this is only if you found out after you already sprinkled the blood. But if you already threw the blood, the chi zrik dam, shapir is zrik. So then it's going to be okay. Aval noda lo lifnei zrika. But if you found out beforehand, lo meratzeh. It's not going to be meratzeh. Okay, fine. So says the Gemara, meitvei. So we're going to come and we're going to ask the following question: Hamotze met. Imagine right now, a person comes and they find a dead person, a deceased person, underneath the path. And mushkav lerochbo shel derech. Now he was on the entire width of the path. Okay, so what happens is that he didn't know there was a dead person there, and the person passed by. So litruma tameh. To do a truma, he's going to be tameh. He's not allowed to eat truma. Remember, a person that's tameh is not allowed to eat truma. Obviously, we're talking about a kohen, because only a kohen could eat truma. Okay, so it says over here, okay, because by truma there was also no tumat HaTehom, but to do with Nazir and Pesach, he's going to be tahor. Vechol tameh v'tahor le'abahu. Now, when you come and you say the concept of tameh v'tahor, that is only to do with lehaba, mikanu laba, which means from now onwards. It doesn't mean backwards, which means that even after he found out that he was going to be tameh with tumat HaTehom, right? He's still continuing doing the service, right? So therefore, if you're going to tell me now that it's going to be kasher b'diavad, it should have said kasher and pasul, not tameh v'tahor, right? Because when you say tameh v'tahor, it's not like more baravashi, but even lechatchila, he's allowed to come and he's allowed to do the service, right? Even after knowing about the tumat hatom, which means when you say kasher and pasul, that's to do with the sacrifice. Is it kasher if you continue doing it, or it's pasul if you do it? However, though, when you say tahor v'tameh, we already know that the guy's tahor v'tameh, but it means that even lechatchila you're allowed to do it in that form. La'itman hachitman, but this is what it means to say. Amar Ravashi lo teima nodalo lachar zika. Don't say that we're talking about after the sprinkling of the blood. To hudun minatzeh, that it's going to actually be minatzeh. Avan nodaliv zika, but if it's going to be before the zrika, lo minatzeh, it's not going to be minatzeh. Elafilu nodaliv, even if it's going to be done before the zrika, minatzeh, it's going to be minatzeh. So that means again, even if it was going to be done before the zrika, it's going to be minatzeh and it's going to want it. It's going to make it that it's going to be accepted. Okay, so gufa, we learned in a braita. Hamotze met. Imagine a person comes and he finds a deceased person, mamash, lying in front of the street like this. So mamash, his entire body is like, right, like the entire street, blocking the path. Okay, that's the way that he found it. So litruma, he's going to be tameh. And to do with Nazir and the Oseh Pesach, remember here when it says Nazir ve'Oseh Pesach, it's not both, it's Nazir and Pesach, he's going to be tahor. But medvarim, one of these words, she'en lo makom la'avor, if he has no place whatsoever to pass. But if he does have a place to pass, right? So then, even for Tuma, he's going to be tahor. Why? Because then it's going to be a safek. And safek Tuma b'rishut rabim is tahor. Meaning, if you have a doubt to do with Tuma, if it's going to be in rishut rabim, it's going to be in the public domain, it's going to be pure. If it's going to be in the private domain, it's going to be tameh. Here, it's in the public domain. So if the dead person is on the road, but there's a little bit of place where you're able to pass, so maybe you passed on the place where he wasn't underneath. So it's a safek, it's a doubt. Once it's a doubt, I say safek rishut rabim is going to be tahor. Kapish? Yeah? Yeah, we learned this many times. Okay? But medvarim, one of these words also, shemetzal shalem, if you found them whole, aval meshubar umfurak, but if you found them broken or in limbs, tahor, he's also going to be tahor. Why? Shema ben aprakim avad, because maybe he passed by on the place where there was no connection between the body. Meaning, if you found him that he wasn't whole, right, two halves or different parts, so maybe he passed exactly where there was broken parts, and therefore there was nothing underneath him, so he's going to be pure. Okay? Uvekever, and when we're no, it doesn't matter. As long as it was, remember, here we're talking about the tomat oil right on top, directly on top of it, so he's able to go through. Yeah. So the kever, and we're talking about by a kever, afilu meshubar furak, even if it's going to be broken, tameh. Why? Because the entire kever is mitzaref, which means that by a tombstone, the entire tombstone actually brings them together. So therefore, since the entire tombstone brings them together, right, it's like one body, even though there's different parts of the body. But medvani, these words, only if he's walking on his feet. Aval ta'un, but if he's carrying something, or rachuv, or he's riding on an animal, he's going to be tameh. Why? Because when somebody's walking and he doesn't have any burden, it could be that he's going and he's not riding or anything. So it could be that he didn't touch the dead deceased person and he didn't do anything, and he didn't do any ohel as well. Aval ta'un or rachu. But if he's riding on an animal or he's carrying a burden, it's impossible that he didn't touch the deceased or he didn't do an ohel. Why? Because since he cannot go. It says over here, he's saying that it's not considered a safek tuma, it's like a vadai tuma, because for sure, that means here it's like for sure that because the burden and because the way that he's riding, for sure he went over it and therefore he's going to become tameh.
Meaning he carries something on him, so it goes sideways or whatever it is. So it's not only his body like before he was walking in between.
Right. Okay. Now, one of these words only in tumat ha'tom. But if it's already known, tameh, he is going to be tameh. What is tumat ha'tom? If you didn't recognize it from one part of the world, but if right now, right, you did recognize it from one of the places of the world, ends the tumat ha'tom, it's not tumat ha'tom. Okay, fine. Next, mitzao tamun beteven o be'afar o b'tzirot. Imagine right now if you found the deceased person that he was underneath grain or underneath a gal shel afar o tzirot, or for example stones, whatever it is. Hareze tumat ha'tom. This is considered tumat ha'tom. So says the Gemara, b'mayim ba'afela b'nikikei slaim en zeb tumat ha'tom. If he found it in water or in a place which is dark, or in the holes of like cracks and things like that of like stones or like rocks, and like in caves type of thing. Ends at tumat ha'tom, it's not tumat ha'tom. Why? Because you could actually look in and you could actually see it. You understand? That means it's not that nobody could see it. If it was in a place nobody could see it, that's one thing. But here, it's not tumat tehom. Velo amru tumat tehom lemebilvav. However, though we only spoke about tumat tehom only by the met and not by a sheretz, right? Which we or by ziva. We already learned this a few times already. Okay, fine. Says the Mishnah. Mishnah says nitzma shalem urubo sorfin oto lifnei abira. If right now the korban pesach became tameh, whether it was the whole korban pesach or the majority of the korban pesach, sorfin oto lifnei abira. So you're going to burn it in the place right before the Bet HaMikdash, which is called lifnei abira, which means the entire Bet HaMikdash is called like the bira. Bira is like well, that's Ida Bida is a capital, but it's like a, I don't know if you want to call it the center. Yeah, it's like more of like a center. So it says over here, so the entire Bet HaMikdash is called the center. So it says over here, you burn it right there. Me'atzeh maracha, right? Of the wood of the maracha, of the mizbeach, right? So that's what that means you're going to take the wood of the mizbeach, right? So it says over here, and you're allowed to burn it over there, right? But again, it's going to be by the Bet HaMikdash. Nitma miuto, if only the minority of the Korban Pesach became tameh, ve'notar, or you have the leftovers of the Korban Pesach, which was tahor, which any leftovers you have to burn it. So finoto bechatzeno gagatem yatzman. No, then they burn it on their own, in their own courtyards or their own roofs with the wood of themselves. Hatzai kanin. These are people which are stingy people. So finoto lifnei bira, they will bring it in front of the bira, which means some people they always want to save. So what do? They come. You'll always meet these people. I still remember until today there was I never heard of it in my life because there was a person that he bought a mikveh card. So they used to go to the mikveh every single day in Eretz Yisrael, right? They used to go many times at night times also to the mikveh, but not because of the mikveh, to shower. So they didn't want to use the water in their houses, so they used to go to the mikveh just to shower. You understand? So it was like a whole, again, for me, you hear these things, you're like, what's going on? But again, it's a concept. People, they're stingy. So here, this guy he's stingy. He didn't want to start using his own firewood to burn the leftovers or to burn the. So what did he do? He goes to in front of the bida and he burns it over there. You understand why he just wants to use the wood of the marachas that way?
Maybe it's holy.
Yeah, maybe it's holy. That's good. Fine, but here it says it's not holy. It's just that he wants to benefit from the fine. My tama. What's the reasoning why a korban pesach becomes the entire thing tameh, or the majority becomes tameh before you burn it in front of the Bet HaMikdash? Amar Rabbi Yosef Chanina kedei levaishan, in order to embarrass the owners, because since the entire thing became tameh, or the majority became tameh, mistaber that there was a type of like a negligence here involved, and that's why they had to actually burn it in front of everyone, so that way people will be careful. You understand? Which is incredible. You see here that the Torah is or the Torah Chachamim, whatever you want to call them, they're purposely embarrassing the person, so he doesn't do it again. He doesn't do any type of pshia. You understand? And by the way, you should know this concept is all throughout the Torah. V'anisharim yishmeu v'yirau. What does that mean? When you come and you give sekilah to someone, right? What do you do? Right? You have to make sure that you're going to do it in front of everybody. What does that mean? You come and you do sekilah and you do all these things, you have to do it in front of everybody. Why do you do it in front of everybody? You do it in front of everybody. What? Exactly. Because they have to fear. You're embarrassing the guy. No, but it's for everybody else. And everybody has to learn from them. So therefore, sometimes you have a korban. And these guys are the korbanot. You understand? So that's what you have. Okay? Fine. We're going to stop here by the 2 dots. Which is basically the, okay, we'll stop by the 2 dots and then tomorrow we continue.